Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and our next guest has some killer new music coming out. So let's welcome to the show, Ryan from Little King.
Thanks, Pipeman. Appreciate you having us on, man. Album's coming out tomorrow, so we're excited and busy and fucking running a little bit ragged. It's all good though, right?
That's the fun part, right?
I don't know. What kind of masochism are you into, bro?
If you're in music, you're into masochism.
That is a
bottom
fact.
line.
It's a lifelong affliction. No, dude, this is a fun part for sure. Make a record, you're super fucking proud of it. Like, you love the guys you're playing with and your whole team. And, after doing this for like 28 years, which is basically where I'm at right now, making records, like, all I do is work with people that I dig. And so, like, being able to celebrate the next few days and few weeks with those guys is pretty dope for sure.
That's what you figure out when you get older, because when you start a band when you're a kid, you think these people are your lifelong friends, and most of them never last past teenage years, and then when you get to the later stages, it's like, I don't have to deal with all that fucking drama. Why don't I just play with people I like?
And I mean, I don't want to be pejorative too much, but like, drama and musicians, it's sort of like, peanut butter and jelly,
Right?
and jelly, or bong water and the floor, or whatever. It is what it is. But I definitely have appreciated the last 20 years with the last two guys I was with, and particularly Eddie Garcia. Shout out to him. He's the drummer for Pissing Razors. I don't know if you're familiar with them. He's played in Overkill for a while. He's been around, and he and I have made a bunch of records together, like 5 over the last 20 years. And so this is the first one I haven't made with him since 2003. And I think just like having a fresh perspective, I live in Tucson now, and Eddie's in El Paso. And so for the longest time, no matter where the fuck I was living, dude, in the US, like Delaware or San Jose, Seattle even, I was always going to El Paso to make records. But this time, I've been in Tucson 5 years, and I take care of my mom, and I take care of my son. I'm a single dad too, amongst all the other fucking 9,000 things that I'm doing, So I just wanted to stay local. So I found someone cool here and got some new musicians, even though Dave, the bass player, played on our last couple records. He plays cello too, so he's a ranger. But dude, just kind of a breath of fresh air. And just like, as I listen back to the tracks, you should always take a couple weeks off from listening to your stuff when you're done, 'cause it's just not fresh, dude. Like, it sounds terrible.
Right.
To be honest with you. But after going back after a couple weeks and revisiting and getting ready for all the interviews and the press and stuff, yeah, dude, it's like, okay, I listened back and I was like really glad for the decisions that I made this time. They were pretty adult.
Nice.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I think one of the best decisions you made too is not having to go to El Paso, because if I never have to go to El Paso, I'd be perfectly happy.
There's a charm there, and it's hard to explain to people who haven't lived there, because clearly, like, if you're on fucking I-10 blazing east or west, it's a blow through. There's nothing to recommend it. But when you get in and you start to meet the people and you find the nooks and the Mexican food, which is absolutely
it's good for Mexican food for sure.
But and I have so many homies there, dude, and they're just salt. I mean, it's not the most affluent city, it's not the most highly like master's and PhD level educated city, but there's some fucking great people there, dude. And so even though yes, it is not like Bali or like Big Sur, it's not. No one's ever going to mistake it for that. At least like the people are pretty down to earth there, to be honest with you, compared to almost all the other places I've ever been.
Well, that's good to hear. My daughter was her ex-husband was in the military, so they were stationed in El Paso for a while.
Yeah. Fort Bliss brings they're like 60,000 people at Fort Bliss or something. But the peripheral plus, that's a huge part of like the economy and what goes on there. But we made a ton of records there, dude. And like, I've recorded there for a long time. And yes, it's nice to stay home. Tucson's lovely. I like my life here. And I'm 53 and this is my 8th record. And so it's time to like make some changes. But at the same time, it like still sounds like me. Like I can't fucking get away. I can't get away from myself, ever. So
it should always be your foundation, right? It's just what you evolve from that foundation. That's the way I look at it.
And I
you know?
think, and as a thoughtful and hopefully introspective artist, you're not necessarily looking to say, okay, I've got to progress different guitars, different snare sound, different arrangements. I don't think that you have to set out necessarily to be that way as a long time artist, but I do think it has to be at least part of the equation, because I don't want to make the same music over and over again. But I also know I'm, true to the fucking core of who I am, who I always have been, over all these last years. So do we think about it a little bit? Yeah, maybe. But the main thing is, like, I have to listen back now to my back catalog because it's been at it for a minute, right? And so I have to make sure I'm not like repeating hooks, for
Yeah.
example, repeating words, because like we're all predisposed to like going back to our fucking habits, right? Of these words, these phrases, these on the guitar, these phrases. And so I do definitely hammer my new songs against my old songs, but like, okay, cool. That's actually original. Like I actually haven't done that before, which is at this point it's kind of like a fucking minor miracle. But we do that.
It
We
is
do
it
progress,
is a miracle. It is a miracle because there's plenty of bands that they write new music and they don't even realize that it's kind of the old music, because it's just hammered in your head.
Yeah, it's one of those old school tricks that you learn. I was just telling my girlfriend yesterday, we were having a long conversation, and the recurring theme was that there is no substitute for experience, and there just literally isn't. Like it is not something that you can approximate. And I was like, and it's like if you're a fucking brain surgeon, dude, like you can't describe to somebody what it's like to cut someone's head open and like do it justice. And it's like, I'm not saying that rock and roll records are like brain surgery, but there is a
I
certain thing. And like the experience is like, okay, I've made all of the fucking mistakes in the business and in the music. Like I've seen them all. So now it's like, dude, if they're slipping through as many hands as my music is through now, then shit, I guess it's just meant to be there, you know?
Right. And you're right though, it's a good analogy because I actually use that analogy for my industry. It's like
Interesting.
because, I have professional studios, state of the art equipment, and you have these people out there that think just because you can buy some $50 bundle and do it in your bed that you should. And and they have no clue how to run a mixer board. They have no clue about sound quality. They just have all ego, like my content is great. And
Yeah.
they watch a YouTube video to learn how to do a radio show or a podcast. And my analogy is always like, yeah, you can watch a YouTube video on how to do brain surgery, and it doesn't mean I want somebody putting a scalpel to my head.
It's interesting. We live in the age, and particularly the generation. I'm Generation X, I guess,
Me
but the
too.
generations behind us, millennials and Z and whatever. Fuck, I don't know all the names of it, but they have the most access, and we have the most access to information in the history of the world. Everything is our fingertips. Like it blows my mind, what you and I can, basically get hard, cold facts and figures and dates and things like that. Like that, like, dude, we were pouring through encyclopedias, but of course we were,
Right.
just to try and get through like junior high, dude. Like we had to do it, even elementary school. But with all of this access to information, we seem like we're the least likely to use it. And that paradox really is, something to reflect on, I think, a little bit. Like, what are we actually doing with now that the Pandora's box has been open and everybody can know everything? It's got us in some trouble. There's no question about it. I'm not super stoked with the way that's all evolved in the last 25 years of first, easy access to fast internet and then social media, which is, to me, in a way, is just like the scourge of the modern era.
Yeah, well, the thing that's missing nowadays is critical thinking,
Mm.
and actually reading stuff that you research and vetting it. Yeah, funny, I saw somebody post something on social media and I said to a person, is that peer reviewed? And their answer to me was, yeah, all my friends agree with me. And I'm
Those are
like,
their
you're
peers.
you're a fucking idiot. That's not what
Yeah.
peer reviewed means, but that's the world we live in. So yeah, and now with AI, like
Oh,
AI is
oh,
wrong a lot of the time, but people just take it as the gospel.
it's really, and I, don't want to dive too deeply down that rabbit hole, but it's really less and less asking, pushing us to question things. The
Yeah,
way society has evolved and the way our access to information has evolved and the ease with which we can communicate has evolved. It's pushed us, like I said, into some dangerous territory. And it's funny, like with social media and the way I mean, we can use music examples all day, but just in general, like when you were a journalist back in the day, like in the 70s, right? When we were growing up, or the 80s or whatever, like you probably went to journalism school, you probably learned how to write, you probably learned the conventions of grammar and punctuation and alliteration and assonance and imagery and similes and metaphors and on and on. You probably worked your way up in a newsroom. You probably learned how to source things, and you probably
Right.
learned how to interview somebody and then fact check and then double check. Anybody with a keyboard now can be a keyboard warrior, right? Like anybody's with an opinion now. And so what's evolved into is like, it's not the most knowledgeable opinion that's the listened to one. It's the loudest, the one with the most gravitas, is the one that everybody gravitates towards, right? Because it's just fucking loud. It's in your face. And so, that's it. We can make those musical analogies, but it's part of the observations that I see over the last 15 or 20 years.
Speaking of which, if I have this correctly, you got a degree in creative writing, right?
I did, yeah, from UTEP actually in El Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you tell other artists or just the people listening who may want to be artists how that helped you in your songwriting?
There are certain conventions of elevated writing, and they're flexible to a large degree, especially now with how quickly people communicate. But learning the way the best of the best did it from humans who have studied it their whole lives and made it their career and passion is never going to be detrimental. Do you have to go in upper education with an open mind? Absolutely, you do, because there's a lot of indoctrination and brainwashing going on at all levels, right? In corporate America and education, whatever. But learning and studying and understanding how people paint pictures with words, and then understanding rhyme and meter and the forms that don't use rhymes, which are many. Just practicing your craft, like the whole 10,000 hours adage, or
Right.
analogy. Um, I think it prepared me to try and find my unique voice more than anything. And I think authenticity in this day and age is what really we crave. And even if fucking people don't, I'm gonna do it anyway, dude, because that's how I'm going out, is just being my true authentic self. And so learning how to synthesize that, like what's going on in here, into lyrics or into short stories or into poetry, that's really how creative writing's informed. And so now when I sit down, I'm writing a song, like I bring some a lot of thought to it, and I don't want to repeat myself again. But there's so many things going on in the world. There's so many things that are going on personally. There's so many things that are going on personally that are universal. And that to me is like what makes a great song. But if I hadn't had a creative writing education, would I have had such a crystal understanding of kind of how a lot of those things work, at least for me? Then I think I probably wouldn't.
Well, I think especially for your music, it seems that it's it's kind of storytelling, and
Yeah.
you need that creative writing experience to storytell properly, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I love troubadour style songwriting. I'm a huge Steely Dan fan, and we don't sound anything like Steely Dan, but the way Donald Fagen tells stories in each one of those songs that are just really vivid and clear, and his use of imagery and just words, he's so good with the language. And all of my favorite artists really put a lot of time and thought and effort into their lyrics.
I think it's key. Like, funny to your point, I do like all kinds of festivals, but at one of the punk festivals once, when a band, all the punk bands, they all looked up to the Descendants because of their songwriting, it's not because of the music, it's because they would all talk about what a brilliant songwriter he was, you know,
Awesome. Yeah.
and I think that is key. Like, that's how, to me, that's the hook. Okay.
Sure.
Because if you can relate to that songwriting and it's something that can take you somewhere else,
Yeah.
that's good songwriting.
Well, everything, and this is not an original thought by Ryan Rosoff from Little King. This has been said before, but like everything should serve the song to a degree. And it's kind of okay,
Yeah.
what's the general vibe of this song? And then specifics, the things that you can pull into it, whether it's the actual composition, whether it's instrumentation, that can further that song. And like, dude, there are a million fucking guys that can play sweeps faster than I could ever. Like, and I don't have the discipline or the time or the energy to sit down and become, like I used to be, even, which is like really worshiping Megadeth and Steve Vai and guys like that. Now for me, as we get older, I've reflected on my legacy a little bit and kind of the things that I'm trying to, stand back and be proud of, and that can live on, hopefully after me and through my kids and things like that. And the magic of the interwebs, right? The music's fucking everywhere forever, so can't
Right.
escape it whether you like it or not. But like what my legacy wants to be is being able to tell stories and being able to make them relatable, setting them the music that's a little bit more interesting than maybe just 4/4 all the time or same tempo and same keys. And so now, as I'm reflecting on legacy, that's really it too. Is like writing the songs, the perfect song, and we edit, we write, we re-edit. These are not sit down and jam a couple hours at the session, at the studio, and
Right.
then kick them out. I've done that in the past, and there's no shade. Like, dude, I like that too. It's fun. I mean, and it's a whole different challenge of your musicianship and a part of your brain. But certainly, like when I'm looking to put something out, and I'm looking for this is Little King 2025. Like I do want to make sure that there's some memorable stuff on there. And if people don't like it, it's like, fuck, dude, what can I do? Like, next, I'm cool with that.
You
I've
can't
done it in other
please
bands.
everybody. That's why you got to please yourself, and then
Just
your
please yourself.
tribe will come,
That's
you
it.
know?
Authenticity. That's what we're saying, being authentic to who you are and what you're trying, the message you're trying to put out. And hopefully people can sense that and they gravitate towards it. I hope.
Well, totally. So the new album is called Lente Viviente.
That's
And my
correct.
and my question is, what made you want to make it the name of the album in Spanish?
So backing up a little bit to the beginning of last year, I started a new company. I like entrepreneurship too. I've been a dad my whole life, and I've got to support family and kids. I have two children that I basically raised, financially 100% pretty much. And so, um, started a business in 2024 doing video memoirs. I live in Tucson, Arizona, which is a huge retirement community. And then, of
Yeah.
course, Phoenix is 2 hours north, and there's tons more. So basically, the thrust of the business is documenting people's stories and preserving them for posterity, for their kids and for the descendants, going on. And the name of the company is Living Lens Memoirs. That's what we decided to name it. So Lente Viviente means living lens. And so as I'm talking to these people through the last year and doing some interviews and just meeting people at festivals or at trade shows, the thing that struck me more than anything, dude, is like how people view themselves and how biased we are of our own opinions of not only ourselves but the world around us, and that their kids look at them on sometimes a lot differently than they look at themselves, and we look at ourselves differently because we have this sort of psychological dysmorphia where we really have a hard time being objective and seeing ourselves. And so hearing these folks tell their stories, and most of these people are in their 80s, dude, so they've lived a full rich life, and their families are usually there kind of surrounding them. The lens is the way by which we see ourselves and by we see the world, the filters, the living lens of, we're here and now, what are you doing with all this experience and the gathering and the amalgamation of all the things that you've learned through the years. So basically the album Lente Viviente is the living lens, and it's all of the different ways that filters and perception affect how we act and how we react with each other.
See, that's why I wanted to hear the whole story behind it, because to me, Lente Viviente sounds much better than Living Lens. It just
And
sounds cooler.
and I agree. And also, dude, I'm in Tucson. This is definitely 44%, Latino. And I lived in El Paso, as I said, for a long time. And I've been in the last, 25 years or so, in Spanish culture, really 35 years, because I moved down here first in 1990. So I have great love for Spanish. And my drummer's Mexican. He's from Mexico. So,
Nice.
yeah, shout out, dude. And I don't know. The other thing too, like from the business side of it, bro, is like you look before you make an album and release it, you look to see if anybody else has used the name. Does that
Yeah.
name exist on Apple Music and Spotify? And the fact of the matter is it doesn't. It
Well, there you
doesn't.
go.
So
That's great.
it does as of midnight tonight.
There it is. There it is.
There it is,
And
yeah.
and in South Florida, when you call a company and it says press 1 for this and press 2 for this, it's press 1 for Spanish, 2 for English. So
Same
I
here in
feel you.
Tucson, Arizona. Same here in Tucson, Arizona, bro. Love
There
it.
it
Yeah.
is. There
Yeah.
it is.
Well, we're the
And
fucking interlopers though, dude. They were totally here first. Like
oh
we
yeah.
moved in, Yeah.
And you know what? The fact of the matter is I like the Latin culture, man. They
Same.
we could learn from them.
Yeah,
That's
we
my
should.
viewpoint.
We should be. And we're so, again, getting back to the theme of the album, right? We're so biased. We're so indoctrinated and immersed in our own beliefs and our own cultures. And many of us, raised in a very narrow view of how the world works without the experience of another culture and things like that. There's so much, we're fucking humans, dude. Like
Yeah.
artificial lines and like what north or south of the line, where you were born is so fucking inconsequential. Like the amount of melanin you have in your skin is so fucking inconsequential to like what kind of human being you are inside.
No doubt.
There are amazing people in every race, creed, and color and culture, sexual orientation, gender, whatever. And there are fucking douchebags, dude, in every one of those
Oh, no doubt.
vectors. So there you go.
And I totally agree with that. And the fact is, you hit on something I'm big about, and that is like until you travel out of your local area, you don't know shit because you know what people do. I remember the first time I went to Europe, and I was like, "What the hell was everybody telling me?" Because I don't buy it now, because we're so sheltered. Like I have my ex-wife, her grandfather never left his street his whole life.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's like, man, there's so many different things to experience out there and cultures and how people are. We could all just learn from each other.
Well, and the more you know, to realize you don't know a fucking thing.
Exactly.
So when you get to that place in your life where you are humble to the big picture of it all, and the fact that we're always learning and growing creatures that can't know anything, like we just don't the capacity. When you come at peace with that, the only thing that lasts, dude, is kindness.
Yeah.
And
totally.
and gratitude and humility. The things that are true and pure that we know no matter what religion or background or atheist point of view you're fucking coming from, dude. Like those things are universal. Like no one's gonna regret going out as like the kindest, gentlest, most humble, most helpful person. So the further we stray from that, whatever the reasons are, so when you go to these different countries, like you go to Europe, or I was in Morocco this summer for
I
5
was
days.
too.
Oh no shit! Dude,
that's so wild.
Oh, that's cool. I was in Marrakesh with my son. Like that was his graduation.
When did you go? Okay, so I did radio coverage at Download, and then I was doing Hellfest, and so in between I flew to Marrakesh.
That's
I was
where we
there
were.
in June. In Marrakesh. That's so funny.
So we were there end of July and into August. So we flew to Barcelona and we spent like 4 days in Barcelona. And then it's like a $60 trip, dude. Flying in Europe is amazing.
I know.
So cheap, dude. So cheap. So we went down there for 5 days and did the souks and did the Medina and did the Camel and did the Agafay Desert and the Atlas Mountains and all of that, bro. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, what I find amazing is when you go to places like that, all the things that maybe you were taught or brainwashed about just disappear because you realize it's all a bunch of bullshit. And like you said,
all a bunch of bullshit.
Humans are humans, period.
Yes. And it's all through a filter, right? Like it's all through whatever their bias is, whatever their DNA is, whatever their experiences are. Like nobody can tell me about Marrakesh now because I've been there.
Right?
Like I've seen it and we walked that whole fucking deal. Did you walk all the souks? Like did you go through the market and do that whole thing?
Oh, yeah. And I learned something. Okay, so I learned something very good in that marketplace. Whether you speak Spanish, English, or French, they will not stop hawking you. But if you tell those merchants, if you say lo shukra, they immediately stop.
Yeah, that's the secret code.
That's, and that's basically no thank you in Arabic. So if you say it in Arabic to them, they'll listen. Otherwise, they'll just keep coming after you.
So when you come back from there, when I came back from there, there was a definite like 3 or 4 day major adjustment back to the States, and it was a good adjustment. It was cool, but I don't want to lose the feeling, that I had over there.
Every time I leave, I come back. It's like I go to Costa Rica a lot too.
Love Costa Rica, dude. Big time.
I love it too. I love the people there. The people are just absolutely
well, they have no fucking military, dude. They abolished it in 1946. President said by decree, after World War II, like we are never having constitutional.
And they gave free healthcare and free education instead of military.
Dude,
what a concept. I'll tell you, I have a story about that because I had 2 heart attacks surfing. One was in Hawaii.
Wow.
And the idiots in the American healthcare system that charged me $400,000 almost killed me because they caused the second heart attack. The second heart attack happened in Costa Rica after I was cleared of a year of, supposedly getting better. But the difference I found, so it was absolutely amazing. The cardiologist that's going to do the procedure on me in Costa Rica, He's at my bedside calling the insurance company, like no receptionist doing that. He did it himself. And they said to him, he said to him, he needs this procedure or he's going to die. And the insurance company's answer to him, typical, well, it'll take 48 to 72 hours to process the claim, and it's a weekend, so it'll probably be longer. He goes, you don't understand. He'll be dead by then. They didn't give two shits. He hangs up the phone, and what they did next shows humanity, okay? Because they put me in their social security system so I could get free health care. Like another country, a third world country, puts me, who's a gringo, in their healthcare system so I could get treated for free and my life saved. But my own country is like, fuck you.
Why is it that, and that's a fucking amazing story, and thank you for sharing that with me. It moves me to hear those kinds of things. It's the humanity and all of those things that we were just talking about. Why can't we all across political and social lines and gender and socioeconomic lines agree that that's who we want to be? Like, why can't
Right?
that be? Because I think if you tell that story to 100 people, 100 people are at least going to have some reaction of like, wow, that's fucking amazing, gee, that sounds incredible. Maybe half of those people like, well, but I'm not in favor of socialized medicine. And okay,
Right.
we can have that conversation, but why not? Let's examine like what our priorities are. It's like, why a country like Costa Rica and all of the other 32 quote unquote industrialized nations throughout the world have it and we don't? You tell me, dude. I mean, it's straight up greed.
Well, Bali, you mentioned Bali in the beginning. I was in Bali for like 3 months and I got sick and I was walking by on one of the nooses and I saw this like little, walk-in clinic, looked it up, had good reviews. I walk in, I shit you not, I was in there for 15 minutes. The doctor not only treated me, diagnosed me, gave me the meds. I didn't have to go anywhere else. By the next day, I was perfect. And it cost me a total with the medications and with the doctor's visit, $42. Like that would be like a $500 bill at least here in Florida. I can tell you that right now.
You hear things like that, and it does make you want to make another record and call it healthcare travesty. No, I don't
I
know
know,
if
right?
I'd do that. I like just with a fucking little red cross and like a stethoscope. You're giving me ideas, dude. I like
I
it.
mean, how can a poor country do that, but a rich country can't?
Because
That's
of
the problem.
because of the priorities, because the
Yeah.
priorities of the people who are calling the shots, and the way the system is set up to be so capitalistically dominated, and so haves and have-nots, intentionally, like that's the way we operate. When that is literally the way the system is set up and supposed to be, those kinds of things like the altruism goes away eventually. And I'm not advocating for full socialism or communism,
Me
but
neither.
there are a lot of socialist programs and a lot of prioritization of whatever money is coming in the federal government
It's a
that I
matter of
totally
how you
disagree with.
think too, because the powers that be, they brainwash us. The oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer, but it's
Yep.
mindset too. Because another example, when I was in Denmark, I was sitting around with a bunch of people, different religions, different political viewpoints, different origins. Nobody was arguing. We were all talking, and nobody had an argument. And the Danish girl, we were talking about the socialized medicine there, and we were talking about socialism there, period. And I'm not for socialism in our country, but I like you. There should be certain things to take care of, like basic human needs. But their viewpoint, this girl was like, listen, yeah, we pay a lot more taxes, but we think it's worth it because our viewpoint is, why should I have two cars and my neighbor have none? I'd
Well,
rather
and
share with my country people
l-
instead of having everything.
look at those happiness indexes. Finland, I think, is always the happiest country in the world.
Denmark
So
too.
yeah,
Denmark
Denmark too.
too.
Yeah, and there are 9 million people in Denmark or whatever. It's a small, relatively speaking. Sweden maybe 9 million. It's 6 million, something like that. It's like the size of Arizona, in terms of like what the
Right.
population is. So there are obviously differences, but we're the main. Our export is war. Our export is, we have financial and economic control and tech, and so all of the things that our federal government spends money on. Um, when you have those experiences like that, and it can happen to anybody except the upper, 5% of the population, like you could die from medical disaster. None of those other countries does that ever happen. Does someone get bankrupt, have a financial disaster because of medicine? Just here. And those priorities to me are really weird, especially when you go to Costa Rica. And you're like, wait a second. We're like, wait a second, wait a second.
Right. And it's mindset. It's how people think. And I think, like you, we're one race, the human race, period.
I'm trying, dude, to do this in my music. And maybe, now that we've had a conversation, you go back and you give me 26 minutes of your time and put the headphones in and zone out for a little bit, because all the music that we're creating and all the words that we're creating are positive in their message, in terms of, like, I'm a believer, I have hope. And I believe that art is able to open people's eyes and make them a little bit more open and a little bit more gentle. And so,
no doubt,
not to fucking shamelessly self-promote, but dude, this is really like the sentiments and the things that we're talking about is the core of what I believe. And it's clearly, like, at this age, the core of the art that I'm trying to make. And I'm like, I hope people can latch onto that and, like, take something away from that. And just think a little bit more deeply, question the things that you've always been told, question the veracity of the things that you've been passed down from generations. Like you said, your grandpa never left his block. Like, go to Morocco, change your life. It always will. Yeah.
No doubt. And you know what? Music is the biggest unifier, if you ask me. And it's also the best therapy there is.
100%, dude. Motorcycle's close second, but yeah. There's something about that, like wind therapy.
On the open road.
Just through the hills, yeah, but yes.
But yeah. So I'm really appreciative of somebody like you giving that art to us, because it is something that is beneficial in so many ways. And, a lot of people out there now are saying, oh, musicians, they shouldn't have a voice. No, they should have a voice more than anybody, because that it is one of the greatest voices. And if you don't like what they have to say, you listen to somebody else, what they have, their music. But
universal language, dude. Everybody speaks it.
No doubt. So tell everybody how they reach out to you guys on socials, on the web, how they get the new album, how they check out everything about you guys.
Okay, we'll talk about business, dude. Fine. So we are Little King Tunes pretty much everywhere. And when I say tunes, it's like songs, like TUNES. The Little King Tunes on all the social media. LittleKingTunes.com is our website. It's everywhere as of midnight tonight. Friday, September 26th. We released a couple singles called Catch and Release. I was back in August, and then Don Villa a few weeks ago, which is actually about my home neighborhood.
Nice.
Good stories in all of those songs. Fishing with my dad in the first one. Doing the Yellowstone River, things like that. So everything comes out tonight, and man, I hope people give us 26 minutes of their time. Really proud of this one. And I'm hopeful that we can at least go to Europe and play some shows and not take a bath financially. Please contribute to the Europe tour fund, and then from there, man, I just hope people dig it, always, for sure. And appreciate you and your time and your interest.
And I think they will dig it, and they definitely need to spend the time to take a sonic journey of years past.
There you go, brother. That's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.